Yes, hello and welcome to Turkish football's live weekly program on the Turkish football leagues. I'm Mehmet Öztürk. This week will be a transfer special week. As we know, the games haven't been played. Unfortunately, women's games were postponed for the last 2 weeks due to heavy weather conditions. So today will be based heavily on the transfer window. So without wasting any more time, I just want to call our other two pundits. Firstly, Ozan Günçe. Ozan abi, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good to be here. Host Mehmet Öztürk, how are you?
Thank you, Ozan abi. Thank you. Not bad. I think we're all on the same page. I wouldn't call myself a host, but we just thought we'd do something different today. I hope you've been well. You haven't been able to make the last few episodes due to some commitments.
That's right, but you and Furkan full throttle going ahead and absolutely killing it. So good to be here again.
Thank you. And saying Furkan, let's invite him as well with a little surprise. Furkan, here we go.
Very warm welcome to you guys. I've got a bit of a surprise. So tell me if you know what this anthem is about. I'll just pause it there. We might have some followers that might actually know what it is. And we've got a ton of them, Mehmet.
Yeah, we do. And here's a little tip. At the moment, our favorite player, Salih Uçan.
Yeah.
Thanks to this man right here, we do have a lot of Malaysian followers who have joined us over the last week or so. So we thank them for their support as well. And obviously we thank Salih Uçan for looking like a Malaysian actor.
A big hello to our Malaysian followers, as well as our Turkish and Australian and wherever else followers are.
And Ozan, thank you.
And Özkan Ishtan says, yeah, the boys.
We've also got Mems, a viewer from Germany. So
so boys, the boys.
We'll get straight into it, eh? Taha says our Malaysian brothers, of course, yes.
Oh, yep. You want to introduce Malaysian brothers?
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
all right, boys, let's get straight into it. Obviously, as we know, the leagues have been on a little break. The Women's League, unfortunately, has been postponed for 2 weeks until today, actually, due to heavy weather conditions. I am actually watching a Women's League game right now on the side as well. So we will be talking about them in just a moment. But let's start with transfers. One thing that I want to say, obviously, we'll go team by team, obviously, with the sort of bigger four. But I think some of the teams that need to do transfers aren't really doing transfers. The guys that, are doing well are doing transfers. So let's start with Trabzonspor. I'll get that graphic onto the screen here. So Trabzonspor, their ins, obviously a massive in with Edin Visca, replacing Gervinho, who's close to season due to injury. They've signed the young Enis Destan, their ex-player, Yusuf Erdogan, and Pukash, I'm guessing that's how we say his name, from Union Berlin on loan. So 4 additions into a squad who is clearly on top of the table. Ozan, let's I want to hear from you in regards to this. Did they need this many transfers? Do you think it's a good thing?
Well, look, I'll start with Puchats. I think they definitely needed a left back because with Ismail Kobashi there and then Bruno Perez trying to cover right and left back duties at the same time, they were struggling in that department, I feel. So I think that's a spot-on transfer, providing that he performs. Given that Union Berlin are, like a mid-table sort of side in Bundesliga, you'd think that he could deliver. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Yusuf Erdogan's an interesting one for me because he was sent from Trabzon. Everyone thought he was going to Galatasaray because he put on the jersey before signing. And then that backfired, ended up at Kasımpaşa. So that's a surprise one. Maybe an emotional one from both parties, thinking, bring Yusuf back home and maybe he could deliver and get silverware with his home side. And then you look at Enis Destan, that's promising because he's one of the up-and-coming strikers from Altınordu who are so famous in bringing young stars to the game. But Is he going to get game time with Coit already there? Obviously, Cornelius. So as well as I forget the name, but there's a few strikers there. There's another foreigner whose name escapes my mind now. Edin Visca.
Giannini?
No, Afobe left, but I was trying to think. Giannini, that's the one.
Giannini, that's the one. Sorry, I mixed it up.
I should have remembered off
Yes,
by heart.
that's where I mixed it up.
Edin Visca obviously is the biggest eyebrow raiser here for me because he has been, I guess, a success story really with Başakşehir from day one, with Istanbul Büyükşehir Belediye, I should say, who then ended up being Başakşehir. He was there for so long. Everyone was talking about how Ali Koç wanted him and he wanted Fenerbahçe, and then he ended up going to Trabzon, maybe because he thinks that they're more envisioned for a title as opposed to Fenerbahçe. So from Visca's part, that makes sense. And I think the two clubs do have good relations due to the past. So that's a massive signing for me.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the outs, Abdülkadir Parmak wasn't getting a lot of game time, but I think he's gone on loan. So he needs to prove to Abdul Avcı that he's still a main squad player for Trabzon come end of season. Yusuf Sarı, he reminds me of Emre Mor because he's so talented, so fast, but that final piece, that final jigsaw, he always lacks. And I think that's the reason why he's been loaned out as well, like Abdul Kadir. So he's got a lot to prove in the next 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ferks, I want to ask you about the guys that have left. And before I ask you, I actually want to speak about Enis Destan as well. He was, if I'm not wrong, he was actually really, really close to signing for Fenerbahçe at the start of the season. Very, very promising. Almost promoted Altınordu with that infamous halfway goal last season at just the age of 18. So promising signing, as you said, if he does play. Ferks, let's speak about the guys that have actually left Trabzonspor. There's what do you think of the guys that are left? And there are rumors that Edgar Lee is going to leave as well. Their first choice centre back.
Yeah, like Ozan has really pointed it out already with Abdülkadir and Yusuf being the two parties. I think both players sort of have that Trabzonspor spirit embedded into them. So they'll be missing a couple of those players, who really were at that forefront a couple of years ago when there was a massive reshift in the squad and more local sort of talent was brought in. As for the other name you pointed out, Edgar Lee, I believe, if not already, his exit has been confirmed. So that's going to be another massive hole in that defense, which we've been stressing about this whole year. And to be quite honest, I think it's still the only existing really hole in that squad right now. Edin Visca, that is a massive signing, He's probably been the most consistent player in the Super League for the last, decade almost. It's almost as if his goals and assist tally is in double digits every year. And he obviously reunites with his former manager, which he thrived at the most with, Abdullah Avcı back at Başakşehir. So they reunite, and he'll get the best out of him like he did. And I think if they're looking for any further signings, it'd probably be in the defensive area, especially now with Edgar Lee leaving. And I think that's where they probably address any problems really. Aside from that, it's looking all smooth sailing to a title which they've been longing for years. And at the moment, truly deserve, because I don't think anyone is going to catch them at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, Konyaspor look quite promising to catch them. Actually, they're only 4 points or 5 points off them, if I'm not wrong. They look like the silent killers of the group. Obviously, the big three are out of the picture at the moment. Just before we move on, we do have one of our Malaysian fans who have commented. Wildan says, Alif Shukri for Turkey. I think at this stage he counts as half Turkish anyway after this last week. So thank you for that. Alrighty, so let's move on to the next team. We've actually gone by the table, so we'll move on to Beşiktaş. No ins at the moment. Obviously, there was rumors about Jetson Fernandez today. 6 million euro deal rumored to be agreed on. And out Salih Uçan and Aiden Hasic. First, take us through that. Take us through their window altogether, I guess.
Well, Mehmet, really, there's one name that strikes the eye to me and to all our Malaysian fans. It's Salih Uchan. It's a massive departure. It's a massive void now in the squad. So all the Malaysian fans will be now purchasing an orange top. So similar to the one in the photo.
That's right.
And jokes aside, Salih Uchan couldn't really find much game time and find much chemistry down at Karakaltal, similar to Hasic as well. So, it's a bit of an opportunity for them to really rediscover themselves. I think Salih Uchan was more made with the Turkish foreigner rule in mind, to be quite honest. And to be quite fair, with the squad that Besiktas did develop at the start of the year, it never seemed like he was going to get much of a chance in playing time-wise. So it's a good opportunity now for him to at least, Emre Belözoğlu, and if I'm not mistaken, they did actually play together back when Saidi first came. That's exactly that was right. Emre's first stint at Fenerbahce. So and Emre has proven to get the best out of those sort of local talents. He done it with Ozan Tufan. Sorry, not Ozan Tufan. He done it with Berkay Özcan and a couple of other young players down there. So it'd be a good opportunity. I like the idea of Salih because I've always sort of questioned Berkay, to be quite honest, in terms of his potency, especially going forward. I think he's a bit more better in the middle of the park, but in terms of finding that final touch of, he being the number 10, you expect more output from him. Aiden Hasic is a very exciting player. I was really, really actually, looking forward to watching him. He was a signing that was, and he's actually quite similar to the new young gun that Besiktas have. It's almost like they've gone and found the next Aiden Hasic.
Emir Han? Is that the name we're looking for? Emir Han?
Emir Han, that's the one.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's probably 5-6 years younger than the Hasic, or I think Hasic is around 21, 22, if I'm not mistaken. Emir Han's only 17. So I think that's sort of the decision in his departure. I think Emir Han is finding game time and he definitely deserves his spot. So Hasic will get a good loan stint. Umraniye is actually fighting for the title at the Birinci League, so it'll give him a good opportunity there. And yeah, Eray has just hit the spot on with Besiktas the way they're going, because we sort of had them performing here at the start of the year, and it's almost, they're just fighting for Europe at this stage. They've been already eliminated out of Europe. So I guess with the new young manager, they're going to be looking at different sort of goals, more sort of long-term goals rather than the short-term sort of thing. Batshuayi, by the way, just looking at Eray's comment too. What do you guys, Mims? What do you reckon about Batshuayi's transfer and how he's sort of panned out?
I think he's a bit of a hit and miss. There's some players that perform. Just a bit like Mustafa Mohamed last year. He performed for 6-7 games straight. Didn't perform for another 6-7 games. And then he comes in here and there. I think that's exactly how he is. There was a stage just a few weeks before the break where he scored 4 goals in 4 games. But then the whole season he's been missing. The start of the season he started good, so he's a bit sort of hit and miss, I'm going to say. One question I want to actually give to yep.
I actually wanted to you brought up Mustafa Mohamed. There was an interesting story. I'm not sure if you guys caught it on the news. So Mustafa Mohamed, he's recently signed with Galatasaray this year. It was a $5.5 million transfer. Mustafa Mohamed is currently in AFCON in the tournament with his national team. Also, Mustafa Mohamed is present back home in Malaysia because he's currently enrolled into a sort of degree that he's doing, and he's completing his exam in Egypt. He's completing an exam at the same time that he's in AFCON. So the school's going, hang on a sec, Mustafa Mohamed's present here, but he's also playing against Cameroon. And they do some investigation, and the person turns out that was actually Mustafa Mohamed was somebody else who was doing the exam for him. And apparently he's done about 2 or 3 exams for him now. And, so Mustafa Mohamed must have got that new contract from Gullah and sort of said, all right, let me get 2 things done at one time. Why not? And yeah, he's got a bit of a case now that he's going to be fighting. So interesting read I had this
I would have thought there'd be a few Mustafa Mohameds in Egypt. So
I think that's probably why he was getting away.
Yeah, it's probably a nice name to have if you want to do that sort of stuff on the side.
Although he refused to give his ID, so the photos might have not matched.
Yeah. Jamie
Yildiz says where Malaysian viewers, and we have one right here. Esther's commented saying here, so welcome Esther, welcome to the program. We're here every Wednesday at 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time if you want to watch us. All right, let's move on from Besiktas. Not much was happening there. 2 outs, obviously. Jedson Fernandez not exactly confirmed yet, so we haven't added him in. But our next one, and I think is probably the most controversial one, would be Fenerbahce. This time, Ozan, I want to come to you. New manager, different formation. Now he needs left backs, he needs right backs, he wants a forward, and there's no transfers. So, what are your comments?
Isn't that the story of Fenerbahce's life? Always last-minute transfers or never sort of hitting the spot with signings. I think it's another case of that in this window because it's very obvious that they're struggling from a creative perspective in the final third. Yet we haven't seen any striker signings. There were mentions of Vedat Murici, who of course went to Spain to play. Now will be doing his stint for Real Mallorca. But yeah, no striker signing. There's rumors about a left back signing, foreigner, which to me doesn't make sense at all because you've already got Filip Novak, who is, yes, he's out for a few weeks, but I mean, to use 2 foreigners for left back, how wise is that? Or is Novak going? I don't know. There's definitely a need for a good right and left back, in my view, who's consistent in terms of performance for Fener. But in terms of who has officially come in, yeah, there's no one. But like I said, final third wise and fullback wise, there's definitely some issues, even in the number 8 position, because Luis Gustavo really is not the old Luis Gustavo we're so familiar, used to seeing. And Mert Hakan, Ozan's away on loan, so Mert Hakan, Sosa, and the likes, in my opinion, aren't really steering the ship that it needs to be steered, especially in the center of the park. So that's my concerns in terms of how Fener are looking now and how they haven't signed anyone. In terms of who's left, Allahyar, he's been going out on loan for the last couple of years, I believe. So now he's gone to Hull City. Good luck to him. At least from a Arjun Ilujala perspective, I hope he does well because then it'll, I guess, put some faith and trust between him and the fans as the new chairman of the club and his first official signing. If that does well, then there'll be plenty more to come, and that'll, I guess, form a strong bond between him and the club and the fan base. So he is talented. He's done well. He scored about 7 goals, I think, in the half season in Ukraine for Zorya. Yeah, so he's not doing too bad. Hopefully he can continue that. Is he a championship player? Sure, why not? I don't see him not succeeding in the championship, although it is a tough league and there are a lot of teams, 24 to be precise. So it's a long, long season. In terms of the other person leaving, I think most of the Fener fans would be saying good riddance. As much as, he's got a brand, like he is a known player, Max Meyer. He's played at Crystal Palace in the past and did really well for Schalke and was labelled as a, wonder kid back in the day. So Yeah.
And
It's-
also for
Yeah.
FM managers. Just wanted to put in there also for FM football managers. He was
Yeah,
quite
absolutely. Yeah.
advanced.
He was a wonder kid. So how that turned out is disappointing because he is a technical player, and if he really, I guess, grabbed this opportunity with both hands, he could have done something for Fener. But I don't think he's going to see the Fenerbahce jersey ever again by the looks of it, because the chances are he's going to be sold or loaned out again when he comes back, or he might stay with the Danish side, Midtjylland. I think that's how it's pronounced. But there you go.
Mims, I really want to jump
Folks, I actually
in.
want to ask you a question.
Yeah, I really wanted to jump in with the Fenerbahce thing. I'll answer your question and then sort of just touch on Fenerbahce's and their sort of transfer period.
Yep. So my question for you was, and this is a question that I've been asking a lot of Fener fans, even off this program. So the two players that have left, no one's come in. Everyone's saying they need a forward. Serdar Dursun's not performing. Berisha's not performing. So how right do you think it is for Allahyar to leave? He was on very good form at Zorya Luhansk. And the only reason, in my opinion, that he would have left was because of Acun Ilıcalı and his relationships with Fenerbahce. And then even with Max Meyer, he's come as a last-minute transfer. You'd expect he was going to do something. 6 months in, he's been given no game time, or he hasn't been performing when he has been given game time, and he's gone as well. So what do you think of the players that left? Not necessarily the guys that would probably come in, but especially Allahyar. I want to know.
Yeah, so the Allahyar part of the question, I guess it's the most surrounding topic, was I definitely agree. I think I'm not sure why he's not really being given much of a chance, considering the form of the current strikers and considering no one else is really coming in. So I think he's with his performances at Zorya definitely warranted at least some game time. So I'm guessing this is sort of a project where they've decided, he's going to go out online, and when he comes back, we're going to sort of either sell him or correct me if I'm wrong. I think his actual loan condition has an option to buy, so it turns into a sale potentially. And I guess that also is sort of associated with his departure. So he's obviously not really in the picture in the long term, and they've decided, for 6 months, do we really need to hang on to him? And considering I think he was only bought for 500,000 USD at the time, or when he was 17, 18, very similar to numbers to what Elif Elmas was. It looks like they're going to make a bit of money from him and profit. So I guess I agree with the part that he should be given a chance, but I think it's the management has sort of said, we're going to move on with him, and they probably look at, getting another cash cow, which Aziz Yıldırım sort of started and Ali Koç is continuing. Now, my part, when I wanted to jump in, I wanted to actually really talk about what Ali Koç is doing and what Fenerbahçe is doing with their transfers, because go back 3 years in time, or 4 years, when he came in, it was the end of the transfers where Fenerbahçe is sort of signing mid-table Anatolian players or players sort of out of favour who just are looking for a club, which sort of Max Meyer sort of fits in that sort of category where, it's someone that all of Europe's talking about, but I don't think much better or well-known clubs would, really approach a player like him. There was rumours going about, I don't know how true these were, but Sinan Bolat potentially signing, which is a terrible signing in my opinion, considering his age and considering you probably have one of the two youngest best keepers in the league. And Efecan Karaca from Antalyaspor. I know how well he's been doing, but he's now approaching 33. And Alanyaspor, sorry. I was looking at a note. I was looking at Enzo Crivella, who we're going to talk about in one flip to Antalya. So Efecan Karaca, 33, is he really the player that Fenerbahçe really wants to sign at this age? So going back to his words from 3 years ago, what has Ali Koç really changed since the time of Aziz Yildirim? Not much, in my opinion. We always talked about, the board used to always talk about, we've got this massive talent pool we're going to, dwell into. We're going to make a second team in Europe, which, by the way, I do have sort of a theory that Ali Koç is sort of working in the background with Arjun, with what he's doing at Hull. I don't know, you can call me a conspiracy theorist. But considering, we've got the Al Ahly transfer and potentially maybe a couple of names going there, can we sort of use Hull as that sort of gateway into Europe, potentially? But, we never had all these talks about, we've got hundreds and 200 players we're watching, and we sort of just didn't really end up with much. So
I think we're going to say the same thing about Galatasaray in just a moment. And and
I think last show with Mems, I think two names we really touched on was Ali Koç and Burak Elmas, and I think that's our next topic, Mems. If you want to go straight into Galatasaray.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we're done with Fenerbahce anyway, and Galatasaray, the last of our I'll say a broad analysis of transfers. So Galatasaray, there ins Inaki Pena from Barcelona on loan, replacing obviously Muslera, who's been injured, and Jesse Sekidika, a name that we're not used to seeing in the Galatasaray jersey at all, has gone on loan again, and Atalay Babacan on loan again. Ozan, I'll come back to you. Based on what we're talking about, based on the transfer window, on Galatasaray's window, what are your views?
Well, first of all, I think Galatasaray should sign Alif Sukri, who is a Salih Uçan lookalike, as well as an entrepreneur, astronaut, YouTuber, makeup artist, and something else. The fans could help us out. Magdalene, maybe yourself. I don't know. One of our viewers can help me. He's got about 230 jobs by the sounds of it. But anyway, back to the actual transfers. Look, Inaki Pena, I know nothing about him because I've never watched Barcelona B play. So mind you, that Barcelona is Barcelona B, the one that's in the lower tier. So I've never watched them play. I don't know who he is, if he's any good. So it's a complete mystery box. In terms of a foreigner coming in when you've already got a foreigner keeper, that to me is just wrong. I wouldn't go for I'm already using 2 allocations for a goalkeeper position. As far as I know, Muslera's contract is not frozen or terminated or anything like that. So to me, that's a concern, especially with season by season, the foreigner rule getting more and more strict. I think next season we're going to have 7 total foreigner players starting instead of 8. So that's one thing. The other thing is Ahmet I touched on just now. Did Gomis not sign for Gala? That was what I was going to mention. It's not official. I don't think pen to paper has been put yet, which is why it's not on this list. But it's pretty much signed and sealed. It's about 99% done. That was my concern that I wanted to touch on earlier when we were talking about Fenerbahce, is that yeah, he might have an effect on the squad and score some goals and do a lot better than Halil or whoever else, Mustafa Mohamed and so on. But my sort of theory, I mean, if you're a big club in Turkey, and this goes for Fenerbahce, as I said, with Ali Koç's, vision and Burak Elmas's vision, you'd think there'd be so many more players that we'd look at as big clubs in Turkey, where you've got a talent pool from, Southeast Asia, from Africa, from Australia even, from different parts of Europe, although Europe's a bit tricky because you sort of get the scraps, if that makes sense, the ones who don't make it or not as talented. So Europe's a bit of a funny grey area, but, you've got the whole planet to sort of search far and wide for talent. And then you end up signing a player who you've had a few seasons ago who did very well, I must admit, but you sign him back again from the Middle East. So maybe he'll prove me wrong and, score a bag load of goals, and Galatasaray will finish in a much better spot than they are now. But to me, that's concerning in the sense that there's little or no vision in terms of transfers and scouting. And if there is, it's usually, signings where it's familiar faces or it's a 34-year-old or something like that. So again, that could go either way. We'll see. In terms of the outs, Sekidika, all I remember him doing for Galatasaray was doing that foul throw against PSV Eindhoven. Where they copped 4 goals. So he didn't have much of an impact, unfortunately. So Ayub Sport, so he's traveling across the bridge there, and Ayub Sport is tipped to be among the potential promoted teams along Umrania Sport, who we were talking about earlier. And speaking of which, Atalay Babacan is heading to Umrania. So they'll be versing each other in very crucial fixtures. That's my opinion on Galatasaray.
That's exactly right. And I must agree with Gomis. I think, this is just a personal view. I think I've read somewhere that they're trying to bring him in more as like a leader to the group. There's no leaders in the group, they reckon. Whether he can do that role or not, I'm not too sure. You would want to bring someone, maybe someone Turkish, or maybe someone who was more disciplined in his game. So I'm not saying he's not disciplined, but he's a bit of a funny player. That's what I mean. We do have a comment just before we move on from Adam Chaksak. Galatasaray once again failed to sign a decent centre defending mid since Fernando left. And yeah, that was another topic I wanted to actually touch base on, boys. First, I'll come to you with this one. Jedson Fernandez was massive. It was massive news today. Yes, he wasn't on the list today because it's not official. But what's happened there? For 30 days, it was, Galatasaray signed him, Galatasaray's got him, Gal, and then bang, Beşiktaş. Do you agree with Adem here?
Before I talk about Gedson Fernandez, there was a topic me and you spoke about. Another player, Taylan Antalyalı, a player who was sort of playing that role in defensive mid. And then obviously that last game against Başakşehir, it was a dreadful error from Thailand. And I remember when we spoke about it, we pinpointed a similar sort of mistake in a game probably about 3 times, and only in like the last 12 months. So Thailand's really been playing that. If they're going to play him in that DM role, the players that used to play before him, Felipe Melo, Fernando, very high caliber players. If you're going to fill in those shoes, you got to really stand up. And like, obviously, he's not really up to the levels of those players we mentioned. So again, going back to Gedson Fernandez, in Super League, we have this thing. Ozan Abi touched on it. Once we know players in the Super League, Gomis played at Gala once, he did well. All right, let's bring him back. Karamechev, we're going to do the same with Vedat Muric. And our biggest fantasies are the ones that our other clubs dream about. So Gala was dreaming about Gedson Fernandez. And guess what? Beşiktaş all of a sudden is like, I'm going to take that dream from you. And, I need a midfielder. So we've got a habit of just, poaching each other's interest. Fener do it a lot. And Trabzon did it with Edin Miska. So I'm not really surprised that it's happened. And I guess at the end of the day, it's I'm going to guess it's a money thing that, obviously the club wants the most they can get. And I'm not sure if Gala was really prepared to pay it. So, so Beşiktaş have got their man, it seems. And then, Sam just touched on it too there, they need someone for Europe because, face it, they're going to be playing in the knockout stages of the Europa stage and coming out with Thailand, how much confidence does it have? By the way, he actually did quite well in the group stages, I must say. So, definitely need to address that issue and a couple of issues in the team.
And he was a number 10 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I remember very clearly before he signed for Gala, he was playing behind the strikers, and that's how he caught the attention of Fatih Terim. So the fact that they're trying to make a 6 out of him, because he's naturally not a number 6 or a number 8. He's more of an 8 than anything, but he's definitely not a DM.
Yeah. And to answer Ahmet Ay's question there, like we said, we haven't put it into actual visual because it isn't 100% at this stage, but it's very close to being 100%. I think he's actually on his way to Turkey to sign paperwork. So, we can say 90% at this stage, I guess.
And just to make that 95%, it was also reported by Fabrizio Romano, who I'd like to say is the most trusted sports journalist in the world. So Romano shared about both Jetson Fernandez. Yeah, he's here we go for Jetson Fernandez and Befetimbi Gomis. So we'd like to say 95%, 5% belonging to Romano. All right, let's move on. So there were a few other noteworthy transfers in the Super League. I'll just go over them slowly, obviously with some photos as well, because noteworthy as in important transfers, important players for the teams that they left from. So obviously we've got Inaki Pena here, and the guys that have moved on. So Andrea Bertolacci has moved to Kayserispor. Yeah, this was a massive surprise for me as well. I mean, yeah, absolutely, and he's one of Karagümrük's main biggest players. A familiar face, Emre Çolak moving to Başakşehir. I think we could have sort of expected that, or we weren't as surprised. I'll say another on loan at Verona, and he's back at Kayserispor. He's back in Turkey, so we will be seeing him in the Super League in the second half of the season. Another surprise one for me. Again, another surprise one, Mustafa Kapı, who left Galatasaray to play in Europe. He went to Lille, where we had the likes of Burak Yilmaz, Yusuf Yazıcı. Sorry, I forgot his surname for a second. And he's come back to Adana Demirspor. So that's another surprising one. Nuha Diko, we've added this to the list because he was Gaziantep's top scorer for 2 years almost. And he's gone back next to his old manager, to Malatyaspor, next to Şumudika. Serdar Gürler, a lot of controversy behind this transfer. Obviously, signing, a day or two after Ahmet Çalık passed away. And there was a lot of controversy between Konyaspor, and Serdar Gürler.
The counter argument to that was that the terms were made
already made
before. Yeah, that's what it was saying.
Right. Yeah, and that's what you'd sort of expect. The transfer doesn't happen in sort of two minutes.
Yeah.
And another surprise one, not Super League, but Jordan Ibe, ex-Liverpool player, has signed for Adanaspor in the Birinci League from Derby County, so from Rooney's side in the Championship. He's moved to Adanaspor, so good luck to both him and Adanaspor. And I think we can sort of close the transfer window here and sort of move on to the Super League. We have our fixtures. We have, I want to ask you both for tips for our punters. I obviously have my tips for the punters. We'll start first with you. Next week's fixtures.
Yes, before I get to the fixtures, by the way, Jordan Ibe was once upon a time an $18 million transfer. So $18 million to Adanaspor. A massive thing. And just a couple of ones I wanted to bring. I did mention I had Enzo Corelli and stuff written here. He's gone away. There was a couple of transfer rumors that haven't happened, but I just wanted to throw some rumors in here. Diogo Costa apparently is linked to Antalya. This came out a couple of days ago. And Frank Ribery potentially linked with Karagümrük and Kasımpaşa. So a couple of those interesting rumors. Gala was also linked with, we talked about defensive mids. Another player from Barcelona B, Alvaro Sanz, a 20-year-old. And like Ozan said, I said we don't really watch much Barca B, to be quite honest. So can't really comment on how good that is. Now, moving on back to the fixtures, talking about Galatasaray, let's start with Galatasaray. They're away to Alanya. With the form they're in, I'm just going to say another loss, to be quite honest. Alanya's been relentless the last, 3-4 games. Emre Akbaba at this point is, just scoring at will. I think he's got about 5 goals in his last 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. And another player I mentioned, Efecan's really doing well too. So I got Alanya winning there. Let's continue on the same day. Beşiktaş playing Antalya. I think Beşiktaş would be a bit more comfortable at home. Adana Demir, they're in third place. They're playing some great football. They really picked up. So away to Rize, I think they should get the spoils. I think the big talking point in this week is sort of the Fenerbahçe Başakşehir game, the two Istanbul teams meeting horns. It'd be an interesting game because Emre Belözoğlu is returning as a coach now to Kadıköy, so it'd be interesting to see that pan out. I think it's a bit more even Steven to call that one. And then the league leaders, Trabzonspor, at home to Kasımpaşa. I think they will. I guess at this point we can sort of call it the final sort of final leg to the home with the break over now. So we got Trabzonspor heading into May with I think starting with a win. And another important clash in the title race is the Konya game against Giresun, and I think they should get the spoils there as well.
Yeah, and Ozan abi, your thoughts?
I'm looking forward to the Izmir derby, even though one team is doing horrible and the other is doing a lot better. Göztepe and Altay. Altay haven't won a game in 4 months, which is an incredible and I guess on their behalf an embarrassing statistic, one that they'd rather forget quickly. So this is a nice way to bounce back if they win the derby. Göztepe have been doing well recently, so that'll be an interesting fixture. I'm going to touch on Alanya Galatasaray real quick. Emre Akbaba, as Furkan mentioned, is in very good form. Is he going to be extra motivated because he's playing the team he's been loaned out from? Or is he going to be a bit hesitant, which sometimes tends to happen to loanee players, just emotionally or for whatever reason, playing against their parent club? So maybe in the comments you'd like to tell us in the Alanya Galatasaray game, is Emre Akbaba going to shine or not? Fener Başakşehir is an interesting one in the sense that in the last few seasons at home, Fener have tended to overcome Başakşehir right at the moment where they're doing really poorly. So Başakşehir have been like their medicine, beating Başakşehir to turn things around. Is that going to happen again, given how Fenerbahçe is now and they're playing them at home again? I'm not so sure. I don't think it's going to be as straightforward because Emre is coming back, and I think he'll be very motivated. The way that he was let go at Fenerbahçe was, in my opinion, a bit unfair, and I think he'll be very motivated to get some points out of Kadıköy there. And finally, Trabzon Kasımpaşa could be an upset. I know we sometimes say this with Trabzon games and they just win 2-0 and shut us up, but Kasımpaşa is a funny old team, and they've closed off the first half of the season in extreme good form. So watch out for Umut Bozok there. He might silence Akyazı.
I think that's 6 games they've won on the trot, including one Turkish Cup game. So they're in some fine form there. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to call my controversial ones, as I always do. I think Kayserispor is going to beat Hatayspor. I don't think Hatayspor will win that one. Trabzon, I think, will beat Kasımpaşa. I wouldn't say that's very controversial. Fenerbahçe, I think, is going to beat Başakşehir. As you said, Ozan abi, they do seem like last year was the same when Fener had lost 4 games or 5 games back to back. They won 4-0 or 5-0. It was a big difference in that game. So I think Fenerbahçe will win that game. I think Malatyaspor, bottom of the table, is going to beat Karagümrük in Istanbul. And I'm not saying this for the sake of saying it. I just it's just gut feeling. And for the Beşiktaş Antalya game, I do want to call a draw, but maybe a 1-0 Beşiktaş win. And obviously, I am really looking forward to the Göztepe Altay game as well, the Izmir derby. So that is next week's fixtures. For any of the punters, you can jump on.
Put your car on it. Put your house on it. No, maybe not. Maybe just $5.
I think I'm more of the cash cow here. Giving the higher odds. So, yep, and we have some tips from our fans as well. Ahmet Ay. Galatasaray Buffett'in bir gomisi Beşiktaş. Emre Belözoğlu to get sent off. Knowing Turkey, I think both will happen.
Interesting.
All right.
Interesting.
So, as we head to the end of our program, let's talk about the women's leagues as well. there's no results to talk about, unfortunately, because of, as we said, the last 2 weeks, the weather conditions were really bad. The Turkcell Women's Super League Group A fixtures. Let's go over it really quickly. Currently playing at the moment, actually. Hatayspor hosting Ereğli Belediye, Kireçburnu hosting Fenerbahçe, Ataşehir Belediye, Ankara Belediye, Fatih Vatanspor vs Antalyaspor, Beşiktaş Ahmetspor, and Kocaelispor Altay. And let's have a quick look at the table as well. Beşiktaş undefeated, 7 wins in 7 games. You know, it's sort of what you expect. That's right. And it's exactly what you expect from a champion team, isn't it, Ozan?
Oh, absolutely. They're absolutely steamrolling the league. And even against Fenerbahçe, they struggled a bit in the second half, but they were the more dominant side, and they're definitely the team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did struggle in the first game, as you said. But yeah, they're smashing it at the moment, looking highly likely to get out of the group. Fenerbahçe has moved up the table, obviously, and currently winning 4-0 away to Ereğli. So let's move over to Group B. Again, no fixtures. We've got a photo for photo purposes. No results, sorry. Fixtures for next week. Konak vs Adana İdman Yurdu, ALG vs Fatih Karagümrük, Trabzonspor Galatasaray, Rize Dudullu Belediyespor, İlk Adım Belediyespor, Hakkari Gücü, and Kayserispor Sivasspor currently being played all right now as well, apart from the last game, which will start in about an hour's time. And a look at the table here as well. ALG's dropped from the top. Furks, I actually want to come to you with this one. ALG, one of the top teams in Turkey and in women's football. They started a bit shaky and now they've dropped off the top again, obviously with the game in hand. And Galatasaray sitting in 6th spot, having a bit of a shaky season, but have picked up lately. So I want to know your sort of thoughts on Group B.
Well, all you really need to look at there is look at the goals for column, and ALG is double what anyone else is. They've scored 33 goals in actually 6 games, so that sort of shows how dominant they've been, and that draw was a bit surprising. So it looks like they're sort of that firm favourites in this group, and you've got other teams that are there and thereabouts, and our friend at Galatasaray, Bushra Kennet's finding some game time, so exciting to see her play more and more.
Yeah, exactly. And she is in the 11 today as well. We're really excited for her. We do speak to her regularly as well. She thanks everyone for their support, especially for the interview. The sort of reaction to the interview that we did with her. And she's in the 11 today. We will share some photos later on in the night. And I think we can call that a wrap, boys. Big transfer talks. Obviously, it's still going on for another 10 days or so until the 12th of February. But especially for Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray, they have to get their list in by today. So for the European competitions. So it's going to be an interesting one. Interesting to see, especially if those two teams sign anyone. But we will talk about any other official transfers on our next live program. That's about it for now. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the comments. It was nice to have sort of our big fan base back. Nice to have our Malaysian friends join us today for the first time. So thanks everyone. We want to sort of end the program with one of the men we were talking about today, Bafetimbi Gomis. Let's welcome him back to the show. Welcome him back. Sorry. Firstly, Ahmet says, great show, lads. Appreciate the transfer updates. Always great to watch. Thanks, Ahmet. We really appreciate your support. And Esther also says, thank you. Happy Chinese New Year to all Malaysians. So happy Chinese New Year, guys. Thank you, guys, for all your support. We want to end the program with a video of one of the men we spoke about today, welcoming Bafetimbi Gomis back into the league with his infamous dance. So thank you for your support, and bye for now.
See you, guys.